Quebec, Canada, fighting Troy the Destroyer Dorsey, 12 rounds for the World Super Lightweight Championship.
What are you going to do now as far as kickboxing?
First, I want to thank God. Say hello to my wife, Shelly and Kendra. Happy birthday, Shane. And thank all of my instructors and students at my school. Now, pick up kickboxing and boxing both again and go after a world title.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
The winner and still hurricane World Super Lightweight Champion of the world, Troy the Destroyer Dorsey!
So that was going back to the early days. It just lots of busted lips, lots of bloody noses, lots of hurt hands, lots of hurt ribs, and just that I went through. And to get to where I wanted to go, you have to go places that people don't want to go. And that's really pretty much, you could kind of say that with anything, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, you to get what you want, you have to do what others won't do.
Yes, sir.
And I was just fortunate that I was able to win the world title the following year, being the #1 contender. There was to keep the title strong. The world champion has to fight the #1 contender once every 6 months. So I was the #1 contender. It would have been the third time we fought when I fought Jorge Paz. So he vacated the title, and I fought the guy, and I knocked the guy out first round to win the world title. It made me the first person to win the title in boxing and kickboxing and karate.
Okay. So, who or what was your inspiration to pursue this type of career when you were younger?
Well, it just kind of, I guess I was in martial arts and started fighting. I really love fighting. And then just one step at a time, I became closer to, I didn't want to just be a kickboxer that just was a good kickboxer. I wanted to be a world champion. And that's one reason I started going to the boxing gym, to get better at boxing. Well, then once I saw those guys there, and they're making a lot more money than kickboxers were. So some people would take that as saying, well, you only fought boxing to make more money. No, I didn't even have to kick, and I didn't have to get kicked. So it was, I'm not going to say it's easier, because neither boxing or kickboxing is easy. But I wanted to be the first person to win a world title in boxing and kickboxing and hold them at the same time. One thing led to another, and that's where it was. You start, we start off at the bottom. It doesn't, if you work at Walmart, or you want to be a lawyer, or attorney, or a doctor, it doesn't matter. You got to start at the bottom, and you work your way up. You actually literally fight your way up. And that's what I did. I fought my way up to the title. Ended up winning 2 world titles in boxing. So I won the IBF title, International Boxing Federation title, and then I won the IBO title, the International Boxing Organization. And I was able to win that fight by a 10th round knockout in Denmark. So I got to go to Europe 8 times. 7 times for martial arts, 1 time for boxing. And I'm going this month to London, England, to one of my fighters, Ty Garrett, is going to be fighting for a European championship over there. To sum all that up, I want to make sure that I give credit where credit's due. So I want to thank my parents for getting me involved in martial arts, and my poor mother. Never thought that she'd have to, and my dad too, never thought they would have seen me in the ring getting pounded, getting my eyes cut, both above and below my eyes, and taking a beating sometimes from some fighters in boxing and kickboxing. So God bless them for putting us in the martial arts, and also allowing us to do it. And I met my wife in '82. She was my girlfriend, and we were married in '86. So she was really there with me most of my fights. Most all of my fights. She was there at the beginning of the career, and she's there at the end of the career. And yes, my brothers both fought kickboxing matches, and they both fought. I don't think Ronnie fought a pro boxing match, but my brother Brian did. And to see them get busted up at times, it really is hard. So I know what it is to see a family member get busted up. But my brothers didn't fight very long, and I had 68 fights, so it was a long career. And for my poor wife to go through and see that and support me. And in 1992, my father-in-law, I was having trouble making the weight, as a lot of fighters do. So my goal was to weigh, at the fight I had to weigh 126. Most of the time I'd weigh 140, and that's where I'd start off, at 140, losing to 126. Well, I was starving myself and doing it the wrong way, so my father-in-law sent me to a nutritionist. And they said, eat these 3 meals, eat these 2 snacks. I mean, they did lots of study. They took my blood work. They did things. They asked me what I wanted to weigh and what I weighed then, and they figured out a way to help me make the weight. So that was, I was real grateful for my father-in-law, Al Jacobs. He put me through to he found a nutritionist for me and helped me so that I could eat like I should be eating. I starved myself many times. Eat 1 meal a day. I'd eat a baked potato a day for weeks. And I wasn't drinking water. Water is so important. I can't believe that I didn't know at that time. But anyway, water is, if you want to lose weight, first thing you got to do is start drinking more water. And no Dr. Peppers. When I say no, really, no Dr. Peppers, no juice, no milk, and just drink water. 64 ounces a day is the goal. And make sure you're eating good food. Lots of vegetables, lots of fruits. You can eat unlimited of those raw or boiled or broiled. But when you put the salt and you put the butter on it, that's the problem. It's going to help you. It's going to be more difficult to lose weight if you're doing that. So yeah, there was lots of times when I had a real hard time making weight. I've heard of people throwing up. I never did that because I didn't have anything to throw up. I say because I never thought about doing that. But it was real difficult. See, God gave us our body to, when you get lost in the, let's say you get lost in the woods, or you get lost in the mountains somewhere, and anyways, your body slows the metabolism rate down so that you're not burning as much calories, you're not using as much of your reserves. You're not using your reserves. Until you start starving longer, start doing without food more, then your body's going to just slow down to the way it burns calories. It's called your metabolism. It's just going to go, let's just say when you're eating regularly, eating like you should, you're exercising, the metabolism goes beep, 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 beep. You start taking away the food, then God designed us that we can survive a long time without food. I think, weeks, maybe a month. But without water, it's not the same. You got to have water. So that's God's juice for us. But I was drinking juice. Juice has so much sugar in it. It's really horrible for you. I thought it was good for you. So I had my psyche was kind of turned around there. But water, water, water. And chicken, fish, turkey, baked or broiled, fresh vegetables, raw or boiled or broiled, and no cake, no cookies, no candy.
y'all. Welcome back to If the Gloves Could Talk. I'm your host, Bryce George, and here with me every week, I've got Mr. Troy Dorsey, but we've got a special guest in store for today's episode. Help me welcome Mr. Steve Park. Steve, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thank you, Bryce.
Well, thank you so much for joining Troy and I on the podcast today. But it sounds like we've got a real professional in the building. Can you tell us about some of the other podcasts you do or have done?
Well, I'm also in the fishing industry. I own Rage Tail Lures, which is distributed by Strike King Lure Company, and been doing that for many years. I'm also, of course, I'm in the martial arts industry as well, just like Troy, but BSAK Karate that's in Burleson, Texas. I'm with partners with Billy Smith. And that's right there in Burleson. And I've known Troy since he was very young. I think he was 10 years old when I met him, 10 or 11. Can't remember. It was quite a while back. And Troy, I think maybe, I'm not sure how old Troy is. I know I'm an old guy. But I've known him for many years, very familiar with him and his family. And I've always totally been impressed with Troy's, not just his character, but his training regimen, and he's a hard worker and a tremendous fighter and a great example for all, I think, for all martial artists and all fighters, period. He's just about as good as it gets.
Troy, how does it feel hearing that from Steve? And can you tell me a little bit about your side of the story of what you remember meeting him and things like that?
Well, first of all, thank you very much for your kind words. I guess you got that $50 check in the mail yesterday from me, right? Said all the nice words, right? Yeah. Yeah, so I started martial arts in 1974, and I guess about that time was when I met him. In that time. So I was 11 years. I started when I was 11, and I guess that's when it was. Now I'm 21. It's been 10 years.
That's
21,
right.
Going to be 62 in November. So yeah, that's my age. Yeah, it's been a long time, but I didn't really know him, and then I don't know, maybe 10 years ago we started getting together and going to eat and things like that.
Yeah.
No, that's fantastic.
I remember some years back, my wife and I went to Phoenix with Leslie and Troy. Troy had a fight in Phoenix. I don't remember who you were fighting then. That was a boxing match. It wasn't karate. And I don't remember who that was, Troy, but that was quite some time. I think it was about 15 or 20 years ago.
Well, it was in 1990. I think it was in 1996.
There you go.
Just a few years ago.
Yeah.
A few years back.
Yeah.
Time flies. Having fun.
It does. Now, Steve, can you tell our audience what BSAK karate is and what that stands for?
Billy and Steve's American Karate. We started back, I guess that was back in the late 70s. We started schools together, and that all in Burleson, Texas, and that's the BSAK group. And then what we did is, of course, I met Troy, I guess, sometime right in that era or right before. I remember Troy came to, I think his instructor, his karate instructor was Jim Choate, and he was in Mansfield. And Jim moved to Duncanville, and then Troy came over to one of our Forest Hill schools and started training. And that's when I knew about Troy. And of course, I think he has his brothers. His father brought him over there. His brothers were Brian and Rodney. And wow, what a great group of guys they were. And they were like I say, they were a tremendous example for all the other youth around to go. They were the best. Back then, there wasn't that many youth involved in martial arts. And Troy, I guess you and your brothers, y'all became probably some of the first and foremost. Back then, it was usually adults. It was more adults than it was kids. But these guys came in there with that push and that drive and a lot of passion to really learn to fight. Just amazing talents.
Troy, what was it like getting to fight with your brothers growing up?
Well, are you talking about at home, or are you talking about?
Not at home.
Yeah. Oh, my brother Brian was 1 year and 1 day younger than me, so we were really competing against each other. Not competing against each other, but it was difficult to fight just normally when you fight your brother. He got a good shot in, then I'd step it up a level, and then I'd get one, he'd step up a level. So, and Rodney was quite a bit younger than us, so he was 5 or 6 when he started, and I was 11. So there's a big difference between a 6-year-old and 11-year-old. But now he's 57 or something like that, and there's not much difference between us now.
Is the playing field has evened out a little bit?
Oh yeah. So my brother did martial arts, but they both did martial arts until 1992. Then my brother Brian opened up a roofing company, and he's been in the roofing business ever since and doing real well, and has traveled the country doing hailstorms for people, and now he's in Plano and Richardson and all over the North Dallas area, and in Fort Worth too, in Mansfield.
That's awesome.
Of course.
So
yeah.
Steve, let's kind of rewind here a little bit and discuss your knowledge here of martial arts. Can you kind of explain to us a little bit more about moving up in the ranks and where you stand
when did
today?
You start?
Yeah.
I started when I was 14. I wasn't as young as Troy when he started. I was 14. I was a freshman in high school, I guess. And started with a guy named Rick Cooper, who was his father was stationed over in Korea for several years, and he got his black belt in Taekwondo. So he came back over. Are we still on? I can't see you guys on the video.
We are.
There you go.
That's the magic of technology there.
Okay, good. Anyway,
when did you start, Mr. Sparks?
In 1967, I was a freshman in high school, 14 years old, and a young man named Rick Cooper, who was 2 to 3 years older than myself. His father was stationed over in Korea, and he got his black belt in Taekwondo. And so when he came over, he started going to school at Burleson. And then I started kind of working out with him. I did some boxing early, and then I wanted to learn the karate stuff. And so I started learning from him. And he was a smaller guy. I'm a tall person, and Rick was a lot shorter than I was, but those feet were just amazing. So I said, I want to learn that too. And sure enough, Rick and I trained together for about a year, and then I was so much bigger than he was. And then he says, you need to meet my brother. And I said, oh, you've got a brother, Rick? He says, yeah. He says, he's as big as you are. And I said, uh-oh, this guy's going to wreck me. And so he was a black belt as well. So anyway, I started learning martial arts then, and then worked up, and I trained with several different people. But when I really started to really have a passion for it was when I met Billy Smith. And Billy and I have been friends for, I don't know, going on 50 years now. And he's the first person, the first time I walked in, I'd been training at this one particular school, and it closed down. About 6 months later, it opens back up. And one of the guys that had been training there with me, he said, hey, there's a new guy in town. His name's Billy Smith. He said, he's about as big as you are. And I went, hey, I want to meet him. So sure enough, we went to the school. I went to the school, and he was as big as I was. And when I went in there, I started wrapping my hands and stuff. And he says, you want to fight, don't you? And I said, yeah. And he said, let's go. So we got out there, and sure enough, we're wrecking each other really good. And then he does a turn heel kick, and I hit the floor, and I jump back up. And he goes, "You like this, don't you?" And I said, "You're the first guy that's ever knocked me down." And he goes, "Well, you're the first guy that ever got back up." And so we've been best friends ever since, and it's been an absolute joy to both train and teach and run schools with Billy Smith. Of course, Billy Bramer is our upline instructor, was our upline instructor. He's gone now, but anyway, tremendous man as well.
So the name Billy Smith has definitely circulated around this podcast even before this episode here. Troy, can you tell our audience how you know Billy Smith?
Well, Jim Cho was my instructor in the beginning, or he still is. I consider him my instructor. But the school closed down in Mansfield and opened in Duncanville. It's about 30 miles. And in the 70s, that was a long ways. So anyways, I started training with Billy Smith, and then and we ended up going back to Mr. Choates, and then I started working with him, and so that's how I know him, working and training at his school and sparring his students, and he just treated me just like I was one of his, for sure.
And Steve,
Billy Smith has been one of the kindest guys I've ever met, for sure. Yes.
He sounds like it.
He's a tremendous person, for sure.
Now, Steve, did you ever fight competitively before you opened up your own school? What did that look like for you?
I fought several tournaments. I think I only fought about 9 tournaments, but I wasn't making any money. And, there was no money in it back then. And so I was more interested in being retired at an early age than I was at fighting the tournaments. I helped Butch teaching school and training, but there was no money involved in it. And Billy had a hard time even making money in the teaching. So actually, I actually taught for free with Butch. We partnered, and but because the schools back then, they didn't make a lot of money. It was a pretty hard. You had to have several different business opportunities going at the same time in order to make a good living at it. Troy's one of the first ones, as of course with his history and all of his accomplishments and accolades, and plus his ability to teach, and his ability to reach youth and also just good fighters. He was able to, one of the first ones, I say he's one of the first ones that actually truly made a living out of martial arts early on. And we all always said, if you want to know how to run a good karate school, go over and watch Troy Dorsey. He'll show you how it's done. So Troy, not just was he a great fighter, but he was also a good businessman, great Christian man, good father, good husband, good good friend. None of us could find any flaws with Troy Dorsey. He was always
It'd
one
be
of the
really
best
hard
guys.
to.
It is. I mean, that's the reason he's been one of my dearest. His family's been dear to us for so many years.
Thank you, Miss Parks.
Yeah.
So that's something we really haven't discussed much on the podcast, is the getting through that threshold of the martial arts industry maybe not paying off very well like it can now. And so how Steve did you get through that and find the passion and create a successful school of your own?
Well, I think the biggest factor was good quality training, number one. Also being totally dependable. That means you have to be there every day. It was hard still today. Being successful in any business is hard work, and it takes a lot of passion.
Right.
And between Billy Smith and myself, of course, I was kind of like with a good cop and bad cop. Billy Smith hugged the mamas, kissed the babies. Steve Parks was always the taskmaster and doing a lot of that stuff. But at the same time, we were best friends, and we were both passionate about training, not just youth, but training people in the martial arts. And so we had it's hard work, like I say, and it was mainly is just to be there and also be totally dependable, and also realize that it's a big world out there. It's not just the hard fighters that want to take martial arts. Back when it seemed like it was, but then when the youth started moving in, we realized we have to do a lot more in the youth area, and not just the youth area, but the schools and things like that. So we would do, I don't know, Troy, I don't know how many demos we did at high schools and stuff like that across, the Fort Worth, and especially around Burleson. We did a lot of demos at the schools, which drew in a lot of youth, and that was an important thing. But mainly it's be real, be passionate about it, be somebody who, remember, parents put their children in our care because we're good. They appreciate our character. They appreciate our what we're teaching the children. They appreciate our love for them and their families. And really, we establish another big family atmosphere. And then we try to be a great example for these children to follow. The main thing is to exactly do that. Troy knows for a fact, all true teachers know this for a fact. When a young child or a young person comes in our midst, one of the most important things we can do is actually be down on their level. Many times, of course, I'm way big guy, So I look like some kind of a monster when the children walk in, and they look up at me. Well, I found that if I just get on my knees and look them eye to eye and say, "My name is Mr. Parks, what's your name?" And they tell me. First, I'm giving them a gentle, "Hey, I'm a nice person." And so and they tell me what their name, and I tell them, well, Mr. So-and-so or Mrs. So-and-so, I really appreciate meeting you. And then, do you want to take karate? When they say yes, go, okay, I'm happy you want to take karate, and I'm going to do my very best to teach you the most, make you the best karate student I can. Well, guess what? That goes a long way with those children, because they realize they've got somebody who not only respects them, I'm calling them Mr. or Mrs., because give what you want to receive, well, then that's what you give. So I give respect to the child gives respect back to me. Troy knows as well as I do, and any other good instructor, that those parents go, wow, my child reacts to you a lot better than they do to me at home. Well, the truth is that children, first and foremost, they think that the school, it's a very respect-oriented, a very, I guess it's when they walk in, they're kind of scared, or their anxiety is there. But if we reduce that anxiety by telling them that we are their friend and we're going to help them, and they realize, hey man, he's a nice person, I can't wait. And so every time they do something, as Troy does, Mr. Smith, myself, good instructors, when those little children do something and they attain a certain level of success, the first thing we want to do, especially if they have a problem with their, if they don't have a lot of confidence, first thing we do is throw them up on our shoulder and say, hey, everybody, listen up. Little so-and-so just learned how to do the perfect side kick, and I mean perfect. How would y'all like to see a perfect side kick? They'll go, yeah. And this kid's going, wow, I'm somebody. So you put him down there on the floor, show us that perfect side kick. Boom, he slaps it up there. And you go, all right, let's give him a hand. And they're going, yeah. Well, guess what? He feels pretty good about himself. And if our schools teach with that type of passion and that type of, I guess, encouragement and stuff, then it's amazing what we can accomplish in a business model, especially if that is our client, a child. If it's an adult, Troy knows as well as I do. What we do is we get them, you're doing great. We don't ever try to correct anybody in front of someone else, especially an adult, so we say, you're doing good. and you're doing really good on this, but if you change this a little bit, guess what? It'll be better. And I know you can do it. Let's work on it. So we work on it together, he and I, a very personal type deal. Troy, we got to have 100 people in our karate class. We got to have as many as we can in order to be as successful as we can. But if we're given this personal instruction to each one of these students at different times during that class, they feel good about that and they know they're learning. But we don't correct them in front of someone else. We don't say, you're not doing that right. You need to, no, that's not the way you be. If you want the respect from them, you give them respect. And I think that's some of the key factors in building a successful, especially in the fighting environment. You may be one bad dude, but the way to reach them is not to be that bad dude when you're training them, is be somebody who cares. And it's amazing what you can accomplish when they know you care about them.
Troy, is there anything you would add to that as far as approaching the range, the variety of different students you have?
Yeah, you just have to encourage them, and you can't belittle anybody or stand around and walk around with your hands on your hips. And you got to get down on their level, be on your knee or just bending over at the waist and just help them out. Now, me, I don't have trouble being tall, so oftentimes we're looking up at kids. But the thing is, we're there. God's put them in our class to help, so we can help them, and that's what we're here. We want to be helpers. We want to help that person get better at martial arts. To get better at martial arts, he's gonna feel confident in himself and confident that he could do whatever he needs to do in a situation, where it be kick somebody or punch somebody or just walk away. So we teach people how to fight so they don't have to fight.
I think that's very true. Troy, is there anything else before we close out today with Steve? Is there anything else you'd like to ask our guest on the show? Why don't you tell us a couple of companies or several of the companies that you're doing? I know you write books also. You're amazing at writing books. And tell us of your businesses. Tell us about those businesses, all that you're doing.
Sure. Back in the late 90s, I guess 96 or so, I found out I was going to be a granddad. And I wrote a bunch of stories for my children when they were babies. And then when my daughter was about 6 or 7, she said, "Dad, when are you going to put those stories in books?" And I said, "Why?" She said, "So we can read them to our children when we get big." And I said, "Okay, I'll do that sometime, no problem. Get out of my office, and I'm doing work, engineering stuff." And so then about in 96, I guess it was, she and my son come into my office and said, "Dad, where's the books?" I said, "What books?" They said, "The ones you promised us when you become a granddad." That's how I found out I was going to be a grandfather. So I designed an early literacy product. It was called Poetry Pals, and it launched with Neiman Marcus in their Christmas book, and it actually won a lot of awards, Dr. Toy Award, Best Creative Product in the World. And anyway, what it is, it's a bunch of poem stories, and they were from real life stories from my children. And it's just a fun program, and it turned out to be a big hit. And then from there, I was very fortunate. My wife and I, Connie, we've been very fortunate, and we basically retired early in our mid-30s. And then from then, I was just chasing my passions. And of course, the children's books and stuff was one of them. And then I started, I'm a real outdoor freak, just like Troy. Troy is too. He loves to fish. He loves to hunt. He's a regular dude, believe it or not, in so many ways, but a super regular dude. How's that? And so I got in the fishing industry. I was designing my own fishing lures. I was guiding on Lake Fork and started guiding down at Falcon. lake falcon, bass fishing, and then I designed my own fishing lures, and then I got patents for my designs, and then Striking Lure Company came to me and said, "Hey, look, we would love to partner with you and license your products." And so they own Rage Tail Lures, which is the #1 soft plastic designs in the entire world, wow. Which I'm very fortunate that it is. And then from that, I was designing other fishing lures. And just recently, I started another company, which is BOBB Ranch, and we are raising and growing. We feel like within the next 4 years, we'll have the largest wild-grown white-tailed deer in the world.
Wow.
And I'm a very OCD person. I'm either going to go all the way or I'm not going. Be the very best, or I won't try. And so we're doing that now, and of course Troy knows about that, and he's anxious to come out and see what we're doing. So hey, I'm ready. So I'm doing a lot of different things. Very blessed to be able to do all these things, but I still say, as long as we're serving in service for others, and I think in the martial arts we are servants. If we're totally successful, we are servants. And when it comes to the fishing world, I say as long as I'm doing my best to create the very best products that anyone could ever use, and I'm hitting that level and just reaching and reaching and reaching all the time. When I quit reaching, I need to get out of the game. I need to step back and let somebody else do it. But that's the reason. That's one of the reasons Troy knows that I'm not so involved in the martial arts right now. I will go to our test, and I'll go to these events and stuff and try to help whenever I can. And I'll go meet I'll go teach when I have to, when somebody can't make it and things like that. But I'm in a really busy world right now. And at my age, it's fun, but hey, I'm just glad that I'm breathing, and I just enjoy myself for sure.
That's fantastic. Thank you for sharing your wisdom in lots of different avenues. You kind of do a little bit of everything, which is impressive. So congrats to that.
It's busy.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
But I'll tell Connie, I said, Connie, when I'm not busy anymore, throw dirt on me, because that's when I'm just going to keep going till it's over.
That's the way to do it. When you've got a passion, or
I think so too.
A dream. Or
look at Troy. He don't slow down. He's one of the busy
doesn't.
guys. He's been trained. He received it. He's received it right. He's a great example for everybody else. These people who are slow or no go. We go, what are you doing, man? You can make positive impact in so many lives. Get out there and do it. Make stuff happen. We're creators. We're supposed to be creating, and I say we create every day. And if we're not, well, then we're not doing our job. We need to make something better every day, and positive impacts in other people's lives every day. I bet Troy looks for somebody he can make a positive impact, especially a child. Every day, I bet he goes, I need to go talk to that kid and try to see what he's up to. It's good.
Just try to point them in the right direction. That's my whole goal. Point them in the right direction.
That's right.
Well,
Yeah.
Steve, thank you so much for being on the show today and sharing all of that
Sure.
with us. And
Sure.
we will definitely have you on again, because I think we just peeled one layer of the onion and there's so much more to still talk about. So thank you again for joining Troy and I today.